All right, let's talk about a feeling that, well, I'm pretty sure most of us have felt, but we just don't really have the words for it. It's that strange, quiet drift. You know, when you start to feel distant from people you used to be super close with, and it's not like there was some big fight or crazy drama. Nope, it's something way, way deeper.
I mean, it's such an unsettling feeling, isn't it? You're right there, in the room, but in your head, you are a million miles away. All of a sudden, the inside jokes, they just don't hit the same. The stories you've heard 1,000 times feel, well, just repetitive. And the drama, oh man, it is just exhausting. You catch yourself looking at your phone, just wondering how hanging out with your friends became this much of a chore.
You know, society has a pretty simple label for this, and honestly, it's kind of judgmental. We call it losing touch. And that phrase just comes loaded with this unspoken guilt, right? Like you're somehow betraying your past or you're just bad at being a friend. But what if that's not what's happening? What if it's something else entirely?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack right here. See, it's not some kind of social failure. It's actually a known psychological process. It's called value drift. And believe it or not, it's a totally natural part of growing as a person.
I really want you to let that sink in for a minute. This whole thing, it isn't about loss, it's about evolution. The version of you that your friends first met and connected with, that person might not even exist anymore. And that is more than just okay, it is a clear sign that you are on the right track, that you're actually growing.
All right, so what's really going on here, under the surface when we feel that disconnect? Let's get into the mechanics of how this drift actually happens.
So if you think about it, a lot of our first friendships are basically built on convenience, right? You went to the same school, worked at the same place, lived on the same street. It's all about proximity and shared history. But then you start to consciously work on yourself, you invest in your own personal growth, and that's when your core values, the stuff you find truly deeply meaningful, they start to change.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, because you can see the conflict laid out so clearly. On one side, you've got your friends' values, which might still be centered around things like belonging and safety. Keeping things comfortable, maintaining the status quo, maybe bonding over a little gossip and old memories. But you've started to move on. Your focus is now on self-actualization. We're talking real personal growth, your career, your mental health, asking those bigger questions about life. And that gap, that's exactly where things start to feel disconnected.
And listen, this part is so important to get. That totally drained feeling you have after hanging out with your old crew, that's not just you being bored or suddenly becoming antisocial. No, your brain literally registers this deep mismatch in values as a physical drain. It takes a massive amount of metabolic energy to basically pretend you're still invested in things you've completely outgrown.
Now, there's a reason this whole process can feel so painful. It's because a huge part of the struggle isn't even with your friends. It's happening inside of you. It's like this internal war.
Think of your mind as a battlefield, and on that battlefield, there are two competing versions of you. You've got the legacy self, that's the person your friends know and expect, the you that's rooted in all your shared history. But then, on the other side, you've got the emerging self, and that's the person you're actively trying to become, the one who's looking toward the future. So what happens when you're with that old group? Well, you end up performing this thing called identity maintenance. You don't even realize you're doing it, but you start holding back your new insights, maybe you downplay that big promotion at work, you filter what you really think, all just to keep the peace and squeeze back into the box they have for you. It's a full-on mental performance, and it is absolutely exhausting.
And this is such a perfect way to put it. The exhaustion, it isn't really coming from the people. It's coming from the sheer effort of trying to shrink your current self to fit back into the tiny jar of your former self.
Okay, this is where we get to the most crucial part. We have to completely reframe how we think about this. This is not a story about you betraying your friends or abandoning your past. No, this is a story about growth. This is really the core idea to grab onto. I mean, think about it in terms of biology. In nature, if something doesn't outgrow its environment, it stagnates, it stops thriving, and we are no different. Your evolution as a person isn't some kind of social crime. It's a sign of life, a sign of health.
Here's a great way to think about it. A lobster. For a lobster to get bigger, it has to ditch its old, hard, restrictive shell. And for a while, it's soft and incredibly vulnerable until that new, bigger shell hardens up. That is exactly what this process is like for us. Our old social circle becomes that confining shell, and we have to go through that vulnerable, uncomfortable phase to come out stronger and with more room to grow.
And that weird in-between period of feeling kind of vulnerable and lonely, it actually has a name. It's called a liminal space. And yeah, it can feel super scary. It can feel like you're failing at being a person. But it's not failure. Just think of it like a hallway. It's the necessary hallway you have to walk down to get from your old room to your new one. And it's in that hallway that you learn something crucial: how to validate yourself without needing the constant thumbs up from the group.
Okay, so after walking through that hallway, where does it lead? Let's talk about the path forward. Because, and this is important, this whole journey is not about ending up alone.
And I absolutely love this way of looking at it. You're not becoming a loner. You are becoming a specialist. You're fine-tuning your own frequency, right? You're getting crystal clear on who you are and what matters to you. And what that does is it makes you like a magnet for people who are on that exact same wavelength. So when you do find your new circle, the connection won't feel like work. It'll just be deep and easy and effortless.
So please, take this as your official permission slip. Stop apologizing for outgrowing people, especially people who seem committed to staying exactly the same. You don't owe anyone an apology for your own evolution. It's time to let go of that need to justify why you're growing.
Because at the end of the day, that's really the bottom line, isn't it? The one thing you truly owe in this life is to yourself. And that means committing to your own growth, your own evolution. That's the most important journey there is.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Have you felt this shift in your own life? Maybe you're in that quiet, vulnerable hallway right now. And if you are, I hope that just recognizing it for what it is, not a failure, but a powerful and necessary stage of your growth, can make all the difference.